Hi, this is Diana Sullivan, and I'm announcing a new digital pattern booklet. This one is about Bargello Lace. Bargello Lace is a really cool thing that you can do with your standard gauge machine, whether you have a Brother, a Studio Silver Reed, or a Toyota. And here is an example of a scalloped shape. This is just self-striping sock yarn, but the lace carriage creates these beautiful scallops. So here's a circle scarf. Here's another circle scarf made with a tiny chevron Bargello lace. Now these are amazingly easy to do, and I'm going to show you how it's done. This is a great favorite of mine. This one is a long scarf with a beautiful cast on and cast off, which I'm going to show you today. Here's another long scarf. Now, this video is to show a key technique in making a scarf, and it is the cast on for these, and then I'm also going to show you how the Bargello lace is knitted. These are really fast and easy, so let's get started on a sample. Here is the sample we're going to make today, and I want to show you how to cast it on so that you get a sturdy Ewrap edge that's 2 strands thick. It's stretchy. It is ideal for this lace and for other applications as well. I am going to start by programming my machine. My book has all these different stitch patterns, and I have a Brother chart, I have a Studio chart, and then I have some punch cards. Well, I'm on a Brother machine, so I'm going to put this in the memory of my machine. I'll show you how that's done. How you program your machine, or whether you punch a card, just depends on which machine you have. This is a Brother 965i, and for this one I press the input key. It displays what my next pattern number will be. My next pattern number is 902, and I press step, and it wants to know whether I'm using 1 or 2. I'm going to do an all over pattern, which is 1. I press step, and it wants to know how many stitches, and my pattern is 12 stitches wide, so I put in 1, 2, and press step. It wants to know how many rows. It displays 998, but that's the maximum number of rows that it could be. I'm going to put in 4 and press step, and then it wants me to put in row 1, and row 1 is 2 whites, a black, a white, and a black, and after that it's all whites, so that's all I have to do for row 1. I push the up arrow and it displays 2, so now I can put in row 2. Row 2 is 8 whites, a black, a white, and a black. Rows 3 and 4 are blank, so that's all I have to do. So I can turn off input. My pattern is in there. I press step, and I put in 902 because that's where my pattern's stored. And I press step until it says ready, and now I can begin my Bargello lace. We have to start with the cast on. The best way to begin this cast on any Japanese flatbed is to knit a couple of inches of waist knitting and then 1 row of ravel cord. Make sure the color of your waist knitting and the color of your ravel cord is a good strong color contrast to your scarf yarn. So I have that done, and I'm going to bring all the needles out to hold position. My machine is set to knit all needles. So it is in because it's a Brother. And here we go. I am going to measure out enough yarn to do the cast on. So I need 3 times the width of the needles plus a little extra. So that's 1, 2, 3, and that's a little extra. Now I'm holding the yarn so the long tail is dangling down below, and I'm going to fold that yarn so the long tail is hanging down, and I'm going to put that folded yarn over that first needle, just like that, and I'm going to zoom in so that you can see that. Now this is really simple. The only thing to keep in mind is that you do need to keep the tension loose. So I've pulled down enough yarn from the upper tension unit to keep my tension loose. And now that I've gone around that first needle, I go around the second needle like any Ewrap cast on. I go up it to the right and then down around it like I'm doing a longhand-y, like that. And then I use the other hand, push it back against the needle bed. So around each needle, all the way back to the carriage. Now you'll notice very quickly that the yarn twists. And I'm making an effort to keep this loose. I'm completely ignoring the twisting of the yarn. I think the twisting of the yarn is just a good thing. It makes this cast on a little thicker. Now you'll find lots of uses for this cast on because it's got a little heft to it, it's pretty, it's sturdy, and it's stretchy. Now I'm going to do this all the way from the left to the right. My carriage is sitting on the right. And when I get over to the carriage side of the work, I will show you the next step. Now you might notice that I'm keeping my hands pretty much under the needles. This is a different technique from my usual Ewrap, and it's because I have two ends of yarn in my right hand. I just need to control those ends. Now here I am, wrapping the last needle, and I'm going to let go. And you'll see that what I have is plenty of dangly end, and it is wrapped around and around the knitting yarn. So I'll just unwrap it. It's really more than I needed, but I don't like to run out. So after that's all untwisted, I'm just going to let this end hang down below the machine. In fact, I'm going to put a clothespin on it so it will stay hanging down and not tangle anywhere. This end, right here, I'm going to thread in the machine, and I'm going to knit 2 rows at my scarf tension, and I happen to be using 7. I like 7 for this. I like 8 as well. So over I go, just a little bit slowly, to the left and back, to the right. And that got the cast on installed. Now I'm going to do the Bargello lace. Now when I work lace, I like to install these extension rails, and I don't normally leave them in, but I need them for lace. So I'm putting them in. Wiggle, wiggle. There we go. Make sure it's in properly. And then I get the lace carriage, and I lay it on the rail, and I make sure it's lined up properly, and it slides right into its groove where it belongs. And I'll put the extension rail on the right side as well. Now I'm going to choose my programmed lace. It's number 902, so I make sure that that's all good. I did that earlier, but it's a good idea to double check. I need to have knitted 2 rows with the main carriage in. We don't want it to be too tight. You might want to keep an eye on the upper tension for just a little while until you're sure everything is smooth as silk. And then I bring my lace carriage on, and I double check that this center tab here is on N, not F. And I'm going to do 4 rows with the lace carriage. The lace carriage is the only carriage that's going to select needles. So on this brother, the first row to the right selects a few needles. Then I knit to the left. It makes holes where the selected needles were, and I go to the right, and it makes holes on the second row's selected needles, and then I have to park it on the left. That was 4 rows. And my machine beeped because this is a 4-row repeat. Now I do my 2 rows with the main carriage, and I do my 4 rows with the lace carriage again. Main carriage and lace carriage. Main carriage and lace cap. Now, as soon as I've knitted this little couple inches, I'm looking at it to see if it's doing anything special. Doesn't look like it's doing anything special, does it? Well, the machine is stretching it left and right, and it's kind of disguising the pattern that it will actually have when I pop it off the needles. Now, after I knit on this a while, if I take the weights off and I pull it out, and I have enough length for it to form into its shape, you can see that something really very interesting is forming. You can even flip it over and get a look at that on the right side. So that's all cool. What I'm going to do next is do another video showing how to bind this thing off. Here's that finished sample. The top and bottom edges are a beautiful match. It's sturdy and a stretchy edge. And here's some other samples, some of the other designs from the book. They're messy. They have bits of paper attached to them. My flame stitch. My little rickrack stitch. My really wide wave stitch, which does require an electronic machine because it's a big chart. Here's just a regular Bargello. Here's a little stitch. Here's a wide chevron. It's a little more filled in fabric. Sometimes you need a more filled in fabric. Here's a little tiny close together zigzag. Here's my standard Bargello stitch. Look how different it looks in this blended yarn that doesn't have such profound stripes. And then here's another wide chevron. These are quite fun to sample. And then here's another small zigzag that's quite filled in. So if you are interested in this pattern with all these designs, go ahead and look at www.dianaknits.com. And if you just want to try one, I think you have the information today to try one.